The local detachment will then take a look at it and see whether it's something that they're working on already, because very often that happens. And so that adds to the case. Or it's something that's brand new and it may not be of much relevance to them. Now, something like, stolen cars or a chop shop or that sort of thing is. But there's all kinds of other things that they will ask, and if you've got the information, that's great. We have another system where we're now texting, and it's a little bit easier for texting because people can text the information, and then we have an operator that will text questions back, and it's also encrypted, so that it's not identifiable. The person that you're texting with, you don't know who they are, and they don't know who you are. So then that information goes to the police make an investigation, and then if there's an arrest and charge, and that's the key thing.
Does there have to be a conviction?
Arrest and charge.
Just a charge?
Yeah, an arrest and charge. Once the charge is laid, a disposition comes back. A disposition is...
Says the charge has been laid.
Yeah, it just comes back to the detachment where the information was originated, and then the disposition says there's been an arrest and charge. We tell the tipster to call back in 30 days. Like they leave the information, and we say...
Did they get a number or something?
Yeah, we say, call back in 30 days, here's your number. If you give your number to somebody else and they call back, and you are eligible for a reward, then... tough patootie, they don't get their money.
Right.
So if you give them a tip number, they call back in 30 days. The gals in the office check it out and say, yeah, that was an arrest and charge, and yeah, you're eligible for an award. Our civilian board has made a decision as to how much that is, and it's based on history, and it's based on a chart that we've put together over the past 30 years. And then they make the decision.
I think is what, 2,000?
2,000 for a
major one,
serious
yes.
major crime.
What
Up to 2,000, nothing
What's
nothing
an
more.
average? Is there any sort of average?
Well, I was looking at this. I was looking at it yesterday, and it runs up to 1,500 sometimes. It varies. Like for simple things where we feel that there was strong enough information and there's been an arrest and charge. We're really truly hoping that we don't go broke paying for tips.
Yeah,
right.
And I must say that in Victoria, you're going to get a kick out of this. In Victoria, most people who send in tips
don't want to reward.
collect.
Oh, they collect.
In Victoria.
Oh, they collect.
In Victoria. Now, what does that tell you?
Well, either they're broke or they have a sense
They're
of
civil
self-worth.
servants.
Or the
They
politicians
ex-
know a whole lot
They're
that we...
civil
Or
servants
they're
and they
civil servants and they
expect
expect to be
for
paid.
it.
So that's very interesting that they do. In British Columbia and in other remaining parts of the country, it isn't as active.
It's that people don't all want the reward, but
No.
in Victoria they do.
Yeah, they do. But I think people generally feel that they're doing a good service for the public. So
Well, there's times when you just want to tell somebody that your own sense of
right.
you've been violated, the town's been violated, you're sick and tired of this clown or whatever it is.
It's as close to
Getting away with
vigilantism as you can get without crossing the line.
Well, there's some
Some
safeguards.
people could go out and look for it.
Now
I'm
the
sure.
other problem is,
Yeah, they
what
could.
about tips that are malicious tips and there is no foundation in it? How do you weed those out, or what happens with those? Because there must be the odd time that somebody phones and gives a tip for something that really isn't. Does that ever happen?
Malicious stuff doesn't really happen.
Doesn't?
We've had people that, we've had some tips where they keep calling and calling and calling and giving us information that isn't correct or isn't right. But you get to know those people. You get to know when you ask them questions.
You know their voice.
Yeah, you get to know their voice, but you
Yeah.
also know whether their information is of any validity or any valid.
Okay. So you're helping keep the crooks off the road with Crime Stoppers.
You take
The
a fight
var-
out of crime.
The Variety Club is doing good for people in general. Is that a fair statement?
Children.
Children. But then, if that's not enough, you're also the president of the CKNW Orphans Fund. Is that not correct?
Executive
too?
director.
Executive director. And that also raises, what, $1 million a year to give to children?
You're making me tired.
Oh, no,
Yeah, we
Shirley,
do. We raise.
I have been your not-so-secret admirer since the day I ran into you in the CKNW studios in 1973. And you were working with Gary Bannerman and Jacques Coury
And a raft of others. They were great.
no, there was one more person that was active at that time. You, Jacques Coury, Gary, and who was the other person? Was it Cook? Somebody named Cook?
No, he came later.
He came later. There was
Yeah.
somebody else that was there at that time. I'm sorry,
Oh,
whoever it was,
yeah,
if I've
forgive
forgotten
me as
you.
well.
And you had the investigators,
That's correct.
which was
That's
a
right.
wonderful program, and you exposed all sorts of good stuff.
We did. It was a good program. We enjoyed it. I moved over from the CBC to take on a job as investigative reporter with CKNW.
Well,
I've been doing some investigative reporting with CBC, and they didn't really like it.
well, you were with you did Marketplace stuff. I remember when you did jam jar lids with Marketplace, didn't you?
Oh yes, yes.
Can't you just see her investigating jam jar lids? What was that story? That was fun.
Well, what happened with that story? I mean, we're really off.
Well, this is what
Are we off
This
topic?
doesn't matter.
No, we're getting
This
some
is not
stuff
your
up-
15 minutes of fame.
We're
This is
getting-
your 1 hour of in-depth.
Yeah, we're
We're
getting.
learning
we're gonna
about
get-
Shirley Stocker.
We're going to put
And
Shirley
excuse me,
Stocker.
Shirley, I'm just going to pull your mic back a little bit. So
What happened with the?
I'm not patting your butt here.
That's okay. Just pat
Just
away.
while
Oh,
she,
okay.
when she would just pat away, Richard. Yeah.
What happened
As
with
long
the
as
jam?
the other Shirley doesn't see it, we're
No,
fine.
no, even if she sees it, it's okay.
She wouldn't mind.
No.
What happened with the jam jars was there was a shortage of
Lids.
jars
Of
in the
jars,
province.
yeah.
That's right.
And Rafe Mayer at the time was the Minister of Consumer Affairs. And so all the public were saying, we need to have jam jars. It's coming up to the time of year when we're going to be preserving, and there's what the heck's going on, and why don't we have jam jars? And they were driving me crazy because I was doing the consumer reporting.
Yeah.
And I agreed. I mean, this is stupid. Where are they?
Where's
What's
the
happening?
jars? There's the mason jars.
So Rafe got onto it, and the manufacturers got onto it, and we ended up getting jars. But I don't even know what the problem at the time was. But yeah, I did that. Another one that I was working on was really funny. Was they made an announcement out of Ottawa that there was lead in electric kettles.
Oh, I remember that
Yes.
one. I saw it.
So I went around investigating electric kettles to see. I wouldn't have known what lead looked like at the time, but that's beside the point. But I mean, it was it was a consumer awareness thing, and it was sort of helping the public understand these sorts of things.
And you were the first lady ever to interview Jean Douglas, who was the president of the Consumers Association.
Consumers Association of Canada, yes.
Right?
I run into Jean every once in a while.
Yep. Well, she always speaks so fondly of you because the two of you were sort of the two blonde bombshells at that time. These two delightful ladies, and I still see Jean on a regular basis, and
Yes.
she's fun. And
She's fun.
Your name almost always comes up. So you did consumer affairs. I'm just get going. We were part of the starting of Crime Stoppers. Variety Club,
The Orphans Fund.
Show of Hearts, the Orphans Fund. Now let's talk about.
Do you want the rest?
I've mentioned. Well, we're going to get some more here because you were also, if I remember right, you were the Powder Puff
Oh,
Derby
David,
champion of Ontario.
that's 2,000 years ago.
Well, it's not 2000. We won't go that far. But you were a female stock car racer,
Yes, I
weren't
was.
you?
Yes, I was. I was reminded
Did
by
you
Now
know
I
that
know
one?
why
Did you-
she liked being on the back of my motorcycle.
Yeah. So you did.
We
you
still
know?
have to go for another ride one
Well,
day.
she
too.
rides a motorcycle.
I ride mine all the time.
Oh, you're
I'm
riding
going
now?
to Nevada, and
Oh, okay.
I'll be.
And she did. Did you know that she went over to Italy and she toured Italy and Germany and France in a motorcycle a couple of years ago?
Doesn't surprise
On a
me.
Goldwing. Oh, that's fabulous.
You were on a Goldwing.
Yeah, and I, as a matter
Now,
of
was that wasn't the first time you've been on a Goldwing?
No,
Because you
no,
were
no,
on the
no.
back of my Goldwing.
No, it wasn't the first time, but this was in Europe,
Yes.
and we saw all the medieval towns,
Oh,
and what a treat it was.
You
Yes,
and
yes.
Karen, Sergeant Karen Frost.
And I ended up becoming a member of the Italian International Police Association. There were so many fabulous Italians on that
So
trip.
now we got the Italian International Police Association, we got Crime Stoppers, we got the Variety Club, we got the Orphans Club, Powder
Orphans
Puff
Fund, yep.
Powder
Powder Puff.
Puff Derby Queen in
Yeah.
Ontario.
And she's a road rider.
And she's a road rider.
And I used to fill in on television for you when on time.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
well you did that when we had the Daily Show on Rogers. That was a fun show. I enjoyed that, and I still